So in the past, I've always made resumes in Microsoft Word or a Google Doc and then exported to a PDF, which works pretty well, and I'll still do that on occasion, but the times they are a changing. And I thought for this one, I would create a resume in Notion for a few reasons. In Notion, you can customize it really easily, so it has a pretty nice design out of the box. And once you've got a kind of template set up, you can rearrange sections, you can have toggles that hide or show more detailed information. So you can kind of have the structure or the layout of the resume with like detailed bits to dig into. There's dynamic content, so you can embed images or video, click through to links, things that you can do in PDFs, but it's a little more clunky. And probably one of the best things is you can collaborate on the content. So you can send the link to someone, they could comment on it or make changes directly if you allow that. It's also something you could keep up to date over time. So if you've shared the link with a recruiter or with anyone that you're in the job hunt with, they can see if there's been any changes. So yeah, it seemed like a good thing to try out. I've of course made a template available for free in the Producing Paradise Notion templates page. So if you head on over there, this is the template version. And then I've got an example of the template, how I've used it. So maybe I'll start there. This is the finished product. So I've got just a gradient background, but you can change the cover to something more playful or strip it back to white. You've got your tagline, your basic location and contact details, a summary, the expertise. This is kind of an example of those toggles where you might have a core skill and then the details of that skill. So what it actually means in practice. Then a career summary. I like having this at a glance section because it just gives you the snapshot of, I guess, the 10 years of most recent experience. Then in the detail of the experience, you can have links to the relevant sites. You can explain your role, explain the company, and again, use the toggle to hide or show the detail of those responsibilities. As you get further back, you might also say achievements, so things that you managed to do within that role. But yeah, I really like the way that it tucks it all up. And then as you get further back in time, you might have less and less to say because it was less and less relevant. Education is a little call out box, so you can duplicate these if the page is unlocked. So you'd be able to copy that if you wanted to add another degree or certification. And then the professional development and certificates is like short courses or other kinds of training maybe you've done on the job. And again, kind of group that by topic. And then we get to technical skills. This is the software that you can use. I'm not sold on this part. I think there's probably a better way to organize it. And this is a very abridged version of the list of software tools that I've used, but tried to keep it really focused on the ones most relevant to work that someone might be scanning for, a recruiter or a hiring manager. Personal interests, chucked in a few emojis because I couldn't help myself. And referees available on request. It's best practice not to include their contact details until asked for, so you're not spreading their contact details all willy-nilly, or in this case on the public internet. So yeah, that's the basic structure and how mine works. If you head to the template version, this is then something that you can duplicate for yourself and then edit to your heart's content. So I've just stripped out all my content to make it really clear where you can edit your own stuff. But then once you're in here, we'll unlock this, you might find, actually, I've only got 2 competencies, so you can add and remove things here, or you might want to drag and drop headings around. It's just a basis to start from with the formatting all kind of built in and some recommendations. And what else can I tell you about this? If you've got someone that you wanted to share it with, you need to share with the share button up the top. And because this is a public site, it looks a bit different, but you could share invite by email address or with a link, and then say what kind of access you'd allow people to have if they have that link, which is handy. And if you want to export as a PDF, you would export in the format PDF, the current view, everything, and I usually do A4. And then if you export that, you end up with an okay version. I'd probably still use a Word or Google Doc for my sort of real version, the version that gets attached to emails, but this does work as a little fallback, so you can kind of see what it looks like. It untoggles all of those hidden sections and creates PDF. So in a pinch, you could use that. And that is about it. I think if you were in the Notion world for your job hunt, some other things that you could do would be create different versions of the resume for different types of roles. So me, for example, I'm interested in people and culture roles, but also interested in operations roles. And sometimes they're quite separate, I guess, depending on the size of the company. My role had been blended in a smaller company where I was sort of serving both departments, but if I was looking for more of an operations role, I'd probably customize a version of my resume just for that specific use case, and maybe for a specific job, you know, so I could really tailor the resume to exactly what they were looking for. Depends how much time you've got and how much you want the job. Another thing you can do in Notion is track job applications. So you can set up a database that gives you space to write notes about the roles, dates they were listed, the companies, anything else about your application steps when you last contacted them, that sort of thing. Although I am currently doing that one in Google Sheet, which is working well enough because it's quite lo-fi. My typical process is start in a Google Sheet, and when it gets too complicated or there's too much that I'm trying to do in the sheet, it might graduate into a Notion database. So very beginning of the journey over here, it's still a Google Sheet, but maybe I'll share with you sometime. And then the last thing would be in Notion, you could use a dedicated page or section for interview preps where you might take notes about a particular job. What are the likely questions that they might have, like behavioral questions in the interview, any other company research that you've done, just keeping all of that stuff together. Notion's a really good place for having a kind of wiki style content library. And you could even attach those things to the job application database if you were that way inclined. Anyway, lots you can do, but here's a resume template that I quite like. Hopefully you do too. Thanks, bye.